with Age of Mythology Retold coming out very soon, within the next day or so, I thought I'd give a final look upon the game, giving some of my opinions after playing it for countless hours, and of course playing through the single players, the multiplayers, and the skirmishes, and messing around with the edit modes. There is a lot to take in here, so if you guys want to know specifically about Age of Mythology Retold and some of the newest features that have recently been adjusted and added in before release, go and click the time code on screen, because before then we're going to be talking about a general overview of what you can expect. First of all, let's talk about it as a title and a package itself. The game is completely revamping and recreating everything from Age of Mythology, one of the most classic RTS games as a spin-off in the Age of Empires franchise, bringing in myths and gods from all of the, well, mythical eras. For example, we've got the Greeks, we've got the Atlanteans, we've got the Norse gods, we've also got the Egyptian gods, and all of them have their own god powers. They all have their own mythical units that can be made. The game really sets off like plenty of other Age of Empires games, if anybody has touched them before in any way, having a set number of villagers, and now, because we're in Age of Mythology, a few other units, maybe priests if you're Egyptians, or extra scouts, maybe even the Norse. You've got your separated villagers, having gatherers that can collect resource, and having certain troops that can just build or really double up as warriors, and of course you've got your dwarven gold miners. Building up your towns and settlements, you go through different ages, each one splitting off and selecting a different minor god, and of course each coming with their own mythical beasts, units, unlocks, and once again extra buffs, whether it's making bronze armor for the Atlantean lads, or maybe it's having a new big hog to attack enemies as some Norse Freya god. We'll get into the Freya god pack in a second, by the way. The game provides 3 different campaigns that we've seen throughout the expansions of the original, and they all are very well and fleshed out. Pretty much what you'd expect, what you've played before if you played the original Age of Mythology. The story in Age of Mythology, by the way, is absolutely insane. It lasts for tens and hours, and it's, well, kind of crazy how much depth it goes into following the story of Arkantos, and we'll get onto him in a little bit because there has been a bit of controversy with this lad, but he has been changed and there's been a little bit extra. The editor is back, and with an Age of Mythology Retold, you have so many options, from raising, lowering terrain, smoothing things out, of course placing in trees, units, and even going as far as making your own cutscenes. So much like in the campaigns where you're playing as Arkantos and you're seeing these cutscenes that seamlessly transition into missions, well, this can be done as you as a player being able to do any of the such. Maybe even, well, can we get a recreation of that Lord of the Rings RPG? Do you know the one that was in Age of Empires 2 modded in? Can we get that? Speaking of mods, there are mods already completely changing HUDs and designs for things. People have been busy hard at work, and the full mod browser is built within the game. It's as simple as clicking install, and all of it is there and accessible, compatible with your stuff. I love modding within these games. And as mentioned with that Lord of the Rings example, there is so much to explore, and whilst it is still kind of small at this point in time, Age of Mythology Retold, as it grows, will hopefully become as big as the other games, because I think it is self-admittedly that Age of Empires, whilst being one of my favorite, is not the most popular Age of Empires games, not even by a mile. Age of Empires 2 will always take that crown, with 1 and 3 holding a spot with many people. And Age of Mythology, because it was a spin-off and because it kind of went down a bit more of a niche road that wasn't exactly just as historically intertwined as the other games in the series, I think it sometimes didn't quite get the love that it perhaps deserved. And sometimes, well, do you know that big review video on YouTube? Yeah, the game that no one's ever heard of. I mean, a lot of us in this genre have played this game and it's very well known, but actually Age of Mythology was way less known than the Age of Empires franchise in general. But let's actually talk a little bit about the Retold edition and some of the newest changes. Now, of course, we have reusable god powers. We've been over that plenty of times. They use favor, which can be generated in different ways depending on which faction you're playing. As Norse, the units do it. As the Egyptians, you need to place down these monuments. And of course, as the Greeks, you have to pray at temples, so on and so forth. Each of these god abilities uses favor. Some of them, like big dragons, can cost up to 350 favor, which, kind of make it a one-time use thing, since generating that amount of favor within the game is very slow. And of course, some of them use less, whether it's bringing in lightning strikes or of course plagues, that kind of thing. I really like the fact that they've added in reusable god powers, but it does add that balance of making you try and get favor as an extra resource, whilst, well, before favor was kind of a thing that wasn't used as much outside of just creating mythical units. Another thing that was added in is villager preset wheels. Essentially, your villagers will automatically gather certain resources from food, wood, and gold. This can all be changed as you go through the ages. So next age I'll gather more wood and more gold, and the final age I'll be mostly focusing on gold, and these can all be customized, so you do a lot less micromanaging. What this is essentially bringing in is a lot more accessibility for console players, because Age of Mythology is the first game in the franchise that brings in crossplay between PC and console upon launch. And now that is very exciting for PC players, because the multiplayer does have ranked modes and it does EOS ratings. So I'm sorry for the console players, because they are going to get absolutely swamped. I'm interested to see about the reports that come back from console players to see how this title really works and fits in. But I've got a feeling any console player that goes up against a PC player is going to get absolutely stomped within Age of Mythology. But I mean, crossplay is crossplay, so you get what you get. Let's get some of the negatives out of the way, because there has been some sort of negative feedback. Don't forget, whilst it releases tomorrow, people have been playing this game for the last few days now if they purchased the premium versions. Now, the main criticism was talking about the new voice lines. People thought the re-recorded stuff for the main characters in the campaigns was not as good as the old legacy stuff. And actually, well, they heard you. Some of the voice lines have actually been re-recorded, and Arkantos, the main character, has had the old voice actor come back in, which is absolutely insane. Now, me personally, it's not really a big factor for me. It's kind of a small nitpick, and whilst I think it's probably important for a lot of people to have that nostalgia for the original game, I think it's kind of crazy that the developers went back in and got the old voice actor in and made it to focus back on the old title, because one of their main focuses has been, and they said it time and time again, that they want to create a game that really feels like Age of Mythology but plays like a new modern title. And well, this is just testament to that. This shows that that is genuinely a focus on that they've been looking at, and well, it seems to have worked pretty well. Some great feedback from that kind of thing. The AI has had some criticism, and I've especially noticed a lack of pathfinding. It's just a general thing with these games. Age of Mythology Retold has a lot of the main issues that the rest of the Age of Empires games. People getting stuck behind buildings, especially now we've got these mythical creatures with much bigger hitboxes. They get stuck behind pretty much everything. There's an early campaign mission in the Titan one where you have these small narrow passageways that you've got to defend, and your big megaliths, oliphants, your big rhino lads just get stuck behind pretty much everything. But they have had some improvements and been updated, and in fact the AI in general is much trickier. You have mythic and legendary AI that you can now play up against, as well as your standard stuff. So if you prefer anything from really easy modes to pretty much impossible to beat, it's all there. There is something even against the AI for every single player, which I think is really important, because a lot of the time it was very much catered towards the more casual players fighting against AI, and now for even harder and incredibly legendary stuff, there is that ability to play against AI, and all of it without cheating as far as I'm aware. Now, that is still to be seen. I've not seen them cheating, but I am suspicious of the AI. But we have been told that the AI plays as the player does, just much more efficiently. And I even put it on not even the hardest AI. I think it was 2 rungs down from the hardest AI, and instantly you could see the difference. The AI was attacking more frequently in very much groups of armies and enemies, rather than just single scouts and things that would normally pour in on the more standard difficulty. And you know, I had to use my big boar ability in order to fend them off. It is great playing against this harder stuff, and it really does add another level to even just your skirmishes if you're not just taking on campaigns and things like that. Honestly, I couldn't really go a video about Age of Mythology not talking about how beautiful these graphics are, especially in the models and textures. And now we have the ability to zoom in way further than I think any of the Age of Empires games in general. And I think the reason they've done that is because they've been so proud of the work that they've put into all of these models and textures, and they should be. They look absolutely incredible. Some standouts for me are the Phoenix, the dragon that was added in the Freya God Pack, as we'll get onto, the rock giants as well from the Freya God Pack. They look brilliant as you zoom right in. I mean, you can see all this work in pure detail, especially playing in 4K. But let's talk about some of the extra maps that have been added in. There's this tiny map. It's actually called Tiny Map, I think, and it basically puts you on one square right next to the enemy. And I did actually have it on the standard difficulty because this is before I changed it up. But even on the standard difficulty, it was absolutely hectic. The game didn't last too long, and I can imagine against a harder AI, you're going to be playing this for back and forth. But it does feel like a game of ping pong where you're putting down temples, you're putting back buildings, and then they send in a few mythical units and destroy you, and then you've got to fight them back. But you can't get too far because each person starts with a citadel that can fire upon enemies. So unless you have a decent sized force taking them out, it's pretty tricky. It's really fun, and basically the aim and the goal is to level up to the next age as fast as possible. You have pretty much unlimited resources because the games are so quick in this kind of game mode. But it is really satisfying to get down the market or the armory fast, to get to the next level, to then get down the temple, to get to the next level, so on and so forth. And you can spawn in these mythical units and use these god powers. And eventually I just went overkill and used, well, my meteor strike, which managed to win the game because it did kind of unbalance it. The fact that once you take down the citadel, you've pretty much won, and the meteor strike can take it down almost instantaneously. But that's why I had to level up to the third age as fast as possible in order to unlock that. It was a cool little map and something that I haven't really played around these more smaller game modes with the Age of Mythology, but I think it works so well. Not just this, but we've got the Olympus map as well, which looks really fun. I played around with that a bit. There's more relics than you'd normally expect in an Age of Mythology game, and each of them have their own different, well, buffs that you can give you down these shrines. So you can spawn in lions, which is fun. Generate more favor, generate gold, as you'd expect, that kind of stuff. A really fun map, especially if you want to play it on the bigger scales against more AI or even other opponents. Now, not just this, but we have the Mythical Battles tab, which so far only adds in a mythical battle for Freya, but I think that will come in later when they're adding in the Chinese god pack, which, you know, will be coming soon, the most controversial god pack for Age of Mythology. They've decided to leave that out, but that will be coming in at a later date. And, well, the example that we can see and the closest idea we have to how these god packs will work is in the Freya god pack, where we add in a major god and a load of minor gods with all their own mythical beasts, such as, well, the Shade Guy, the Dryer with his arrow. Of course, we've got the big warthog that attacks people from your town center. We've got the stone giants, and of course we've got the dragon at the end who just absolutely causes chaos. And, well, Fenrir the wolf, as I mentioned in my previous Age of Mythology video, who just absolutely storms through anything that you set him on. He's incredibly satisfying. But this game so far has been panning out really well. I think what it does is create that perfect balance of nostalgia and replayability from the old game, whilst adding in so much more content and polish this day and age of, well, the standard that you'd expect from a 2024 game. I think it looks absolutely gorgeous. It plays really well. So far, in terms of optimization, it's been fine, apart from actually most of the stuff in the Freya God packs tends to kind of panic the game a bit. Like the hurricane, when you add that in, it goes to about 20 FPS. If you spawn in too many giants, it goes to about 20 FPS. It seems to just be the Freya God packs, and maybe that's just something to do with the fact that this is the newest edition that's coming to the game. It's not quite been optimized to work with everything else yet, but I really hope that they manage to fix that before the full launch. So it is launching. It is incredibly positive. Is it worth the money? I personally, with zero endorsement from Age of Mythology themselves, I would say yes. I am incredibly biased since this is a game that I grew up with as a child and a franchise that really introduced me into PC gaming, and Age of Empires 1 was the first game I ever played. So I do have some bias in that way, but I think that's just testament to how long this franchise has lasted and how well it's tend to held up. The fact that we're getting all of these remakes so well done and the amount of high quality that's come in, I cannot wait to see what more they can do with this gold standard of remake. Well, there's plenty of more updates coming in. There will be expansions and god packs, and whilst we can hold off judgment to see if they're worth it in the future, I would definitely say Age of Mythology Retold is an incredible addition to the franchise. I think it is well worth every penny if you love this thing, and if you've never played one of these games before, this is a place to jump in if you're more into the mythical stuff. It's a little bit less hardcore and intimidating than maybe Age of Empires 2, which is so well regarded within the fan base. Age of Mythology is definitely more for the casual players, but whilst it does have a competitive scene that can be delved into as well. So definitely go and check out Age of Mythology. It's an incredible title. And, well, we're on to launch day, which means, God, there's so much to delve into.